Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. It's Gab Nico here, and today we are going to talk about a very sensitive topic for some, but a very fast topic for many. And this topic, I think, is something that a lot of people need when unexpected situations arise, unexpected situations in which an ending is needed. And I think the ability to get this is highly romanticized, especially in our society here in the Philippines and generally in Asia. That thing is, if it's not obvious from the title, what we call closure. But before we start with that, cue intro. Welcome to our first Let's Talk video. So, as I've said, we will be talking about closure. First of all, let's define what closure is. Closure is more or less the feeling of finality in a situation. It's a feeling that you can already let go. The feeling of being able to have a reason to already move on to the next chapter in your life. A lot of you may be thinking that this is closure about relationships, but closure isn't just about relationships. It's actually about a lot of things and a lot of ideas that can be found in the real world, especially in life. As an adult, as a teenager, we go through a lot of closures. What we don't think as closure might be closure like when you graduated from elementary school. That is one of the main closures that we get. Graduating from elementary, primary, kinder, high school, or college. Once we graduate, we close that era of our life and move on to the next. But why is it highly romanticized in such a place as relationships? Because love is quite complicated in a way. It's simple and complicated because love has its own definition for each person. That's why it's a very complicated thing, but simple when it comes to yourself. And I think that's a topic for another day to be able to talk about. So let's go back to closure. Its official dictionary definition is an act or process of closing something, especially an institution, thoroughfare, or frontier. Well, I've already given a butchered definition of closure in a psychological aspect or in a life aspect, but that just as a trivia, that is the meaning of closure in the dictionary. So going back to closure as in the finality of some things, in a relationship that ends unexpectedly, a lot of people can't move on because they long for closure in a relationship. And that's all good. The problem is sometimes we dwell on too much, or it's something that it's impossible to get because of how the relationship ended or how that chapter in your life ended. Let's say that a family member or a lover died. It's impossible to get closure for them because you won't be able to get the reason for the unexpected end of that relationship. I'm talking about relationship in a context that is not just love. So let's differentiate that. When I say relationship, it's just your general relationship. And when I say romantic relationship, then that's love. So let's go to the aspect of a romantic relationship, because that's where the word closure pops up a lot of the time these days. Long distance relationships, short distance relationships. It ended quite good, it ended quite bad, it ended without even you knowing. And that's the place where you try and find closure. Both men and women, ladies and gentlemen, always try to find some kind of closure to be able to move on. Because if not, they will be bringing the baggage to their next relationship, or they will be bringing the baggage in their life and not be able to find the next relationship, or even make a rebound of the next relationship, which is the worst case scenario. The problem is we romanticize this. It's like that we can only get, or we think that we can only get closure from the person who left us. But in the end, closure is something that we can give to ourselves. We have two kinds of closure: internal closure and external closure. And sometimes both of these closures don't even work without the other. But that's just sometimes. In external closure, we are able to talk amicably with the person that left us. So we have the reason and we know what's wrong and why the relationship ended in such a failure. And that's like the easiest way for us to be able to close and go to the next chapter. But sometimes even that kind of closure, we still question ourselves and we still can't accept what happened with the relationship. That's where internal closure comes in. Internal closure is being able to meditate on ourselves and find our self-worth. Big words, self-worth. But it's something that we can actually easily get by being able to value ourselves more. Internal closure, I think, for me, is more important than external closure. Because with internal closure, we are able to accept and forgive ourselves and even forgive our partner with the faults and wrongdoings. And again, with the external closure, we might sometimes not be able to believe that that's the real reason, because we know our partners, or we think we know them as much as we have loved them through the days, weeks, months, years that we've been with them. And sometimes when they say that this is the reason why they broke up, or this is the reason, or this is the closure that you're asking for, sometimes we don't believe that, because sometimes there are people who lie to be able to defend you from the truth. That's why internal closure is best, because we are able to accept that we did our best and we had our own faults and mistakes in that relationship. I know that in my own past relationships, I have lots of faults, I have lots of mistakes, and I've accepted that and I continue to change that. And that's an example of being able to have internal closure, to be able to close that open wound by yourself with the help of friends if you need it. And I think that's what closure really is. It's not about being able to hear the reason of why you broke up with a person. It's about being able to forgive yourself and fix the faults that are in you, to be able to go to the next chapter of life, to the next relationship maybe, or to the next work, the next job, the next age range, just the next chapter of life in general. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to have closure, not just for the reasons that you think you need it, but for the reasons of yourself. Because closure is not about the other person. Closure is all about yourself. Closure is all about being able to move on, or to move forward, to be more precise, to the next chapter of your life. So I would like you to ponder upon these things. Is closure really that needed in your relationship? Or can you be able to move on, move forward by yourself? Because we all know that you did your best. You did your very best to be able to make it work. But it wasn't just destined. And some things really just happen. And even if you did your best, some things really just fall apart. But when it falls apart, you can build it back up. So I hope that you were able to learn something through this video, and I hope that you can find that internal closure that you need if you're ever in this situation. So again, this is Gab Nico. Thank you for watching.
1 a.m., eyes closed, I'm slowly falling to the music and the atmosphere.